Suddenly, it got much worse. I was pulled directly through the black hole into a dark tunnel, and I found myself rapidly moving toward a tiny, tiny little point of light. And the tunnel was freezing cold. I was frightened. The feeling of coming out of my body was like being sucked out almost violently, very hard. And I had no idea what was happening to me. The next thing I know, I'm standing in a beautiful light, and everything, absolutely everything has changed. I am happy. I feel free. I'm joyous that this has happened. I don't understand it, but I'm standing in an ocean of golden white waves, this light with crystalline drops everywhere like diamonds floating in the air. And far into the distance, I see this magnificent waterfall, and I want to move toward the waterfall, and I have my eyes open and I'm walking toward it, and I'm told to close my physical eyes because it was so blinding bright that I couldn't see well. And when I closed my physical eyes, oddly enough, it was like putting on a pair of sunglasses. Suddenly I can see everything, and I can see it all very clearly, and it's unbelievably beautiful. But far beyond that are the feelings that I have. As the waves came toward me, they didn't hit me, they went right through my body. And as they went through my body, they washed away any of the negative emotions that I might ever have felt. So it was as if nothing bad has ever happened. I am completely joyous. I know that I'm absolutely loved. Life is more beautiful than I ever imagined, and this is the life that I want forever. I know that I'm alive, and I don't want to go back to my body. I now know that I have an identity that is completely separate from the body, and that this is the real me, that I am soul, this beingness, and I am in absolute bliss.
But as soon as my head went down, all of a sudden I am in a tunnel and I'm shot like a rocket, and I am being shot way up through space. And I thought, oh no, I've died. And I thought, I messed up by having that surgery. And then I felt like I was going through galaxy and galaxy. It felt like there was this knock way, way up. And then all of a sudden, just like that, I am suspended in this white light. I look around, I don't see me. I feel just like me. And you don't have to turn around because there's no you. And it would be like if this room was white floor, white walls, white ceiling, but in the middle is all white light. And you know, we don't experience that here on Earth. And I thought, well, this must be heaven. But why am I alone? Did I do something I'm not aware of? I would be alone for eternity. And I'm just looking around. I'm just like floating in this white light. And it's so quiet. And it's such a big contrast from the speed and the sound and the bumpy ride to just still and quiet. And then I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be alone. And then say straight ahead of me is like a clock, and it's 12 o'clock. Say about 2 o'clock, I see something. And it's a faint outline of a person, like arms, shoulders, head. And I see this faint outline. And then my eyes, if I had eyes, but I still have vision, and I see there's a panel of people standing there, shoulder to shoulder.
And it's like a state of just pure wholeness. When I was sitting there on that cliff, I was myself, but I was also the exact same as everything else that was surrounding me. Not just like scientific, like we were made of the same thing, but like I was at the same playing field as the grass that I was sitting on and the air that I was breathing. It was all one. We were all one. It was a connection. It was just like true peace. But I sat there on the edge of that cliff with my feet hanging, and I watched what I can only best describe as a sunset, but it wasn't a sunset like you've seen here on Earth. What I was watching was a living, breathing ball of energy that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It was bright white light, but it was colorful, but it wasn't blinding, but it was the brightest thing I've ever seen. It didn't have a face. It was a literal orb of pulsing, breathing, living energy.
At first it was just dark. And then I was told I can hear this other voice, and it said, turn around. And I turned around, and I can see that very small speck of light way off in the distance. And I started walking towards it because I was told, now go to that light. So I started walking towards that light, and I remember seeing different colors passing me by. And as I got closer to that light started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally it was just big enough for me to get in. It wasn't like a great big huge door. It was just big enough for me to get through. So I walked inside that light. But as I was going towards that light, I could hear that voice telling me, everybody has got a certain time on the earth. Everybody's given a certain time. You would feel that pain, that suffering that you had inflicted upon others until your time was either up or they forgave you. And that's how long you would have suffered. But because you were chosen before you were born to do something, right? And no one else can do it but you. And that's the reason why you're being given this chance. And then I walked inside the light, and I dropped to my knees because I can feel that overwhelming sensation of love. It was just so beautiful. I never felt it. And I began to cry. It was so beautiful. I never experienced that kind of love in my lifetime.
As I prayed, it got darker to the point it went black. Next thing I knew, off in this distance, I saw white light. It was beautiful. Just wasn't blinding, but pure, perfect. As I started to go towards the light, I could see the outer edge of it begin to spiral. And I couldn't figure out what that was. But as I got closer, I could see it was the words of prayers revolving. The words broke off, going into the light. And I followed into the light. The next thing I felt was being embraced, safe and secure. It felt wonderful. It felt like total love.
Absolutely zero fear. There was no stress. I was more or less intrigued, to be honest with you. I was intrigued about, what is this? What is this place? I was so curious as to how dark this really was that I had taken my hand and put it in front of my face to see if I could see my hand, and I could not. So that's how dark it was. Now, way off in the distance, I saw this tiny spark of light. It's the only thing you could see in the whole entire vastness. The only thing that I could see, and it got bigger and bigger, and it seemed like it was coming towards me. And I just watched with a sense of curiosity. There was really nothing else I could do. It wasn't like I could move and run or anything. I was suspended. As it's coming closer and closer, and I realized, oh, hey, wait a minute. It looks like a tunnel. Looks like a cone even, swirling with different tones of gray and sparks of a brighter light. And so I'm watching this, and now it's closer and closer, and I'm watching it, it's coming above me. But now I'm ascending upwards. I have no control over that whatsoever, but now I'm suddenly in it. And now I'm starting to get nervous because I don't know what that is, I have absolutely no idea. I put my arms and legs out because I thought, well, if I could touch the sides, maybe I could stop myself from going up, because I was trying to control the situation. I did not want to be out of control with this, but it expanded on me. I definitely started to freak out a bit, because that really meant I had absolutely zero control. I had absolutely zero understanding on what was happening, and I didn't know what this was. But as I'm going up and up and up and up, and I could see, because you're kind of going up and over. It's actually an up and over feeling. And I could see at the top of the tunnel, I guess we could call it, this extreme bright light. Extreme, extreme, extreme. And then all of a sudden I was there. So I get into this bright light, and I'm stunned with the brightness of it. So it was like a blue-white light. And within that white light are also silvers, and like there's a lot of depth to that white light. It's not just a color. Then there were people. And the best way I can explain the people coming out of the light were, if you've ever been to a football game and you know those really large lights that they all have up there, you take every single one of those lights and you put them ground level, stacked on top of each other. And then people coming out of that. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? What the hell's going on, you know? There was a massive group of people. Could have been 100 or more. Big group of people. And my great-grandmother stepped towards me. And this always makes me tear up. She said, "Heather, you have died." And I was like, no, that can't be, you know? Sorry. She was the one who told me, because I didn't know. That stage was when I started to recognize the light, you know, that incredible light. And it was loving, yes, beyond what we could imagine. Just incredible. And acceptance and support and kindness and gentleness. And I had fallen to my knees at the time, and you think, well, where the heck am I that there's a floor? You know, I mean, that never made sense to me. Where the heck am I that there's an actual floor, you know? But everything was white, you know?
I was traveling through what looked like deep space, moving past light that was blurring by at, as you had described, breakneck speed. And in the distance, I was seeing a giant light. But about that time, I recognized that I was not traveling alone. It seemed like it was coming from my body, a light beam, in a sense, illuminating from me, illuminating my pathway. And the pathway that I was in was not a tunnel. It was a narrow beam of light illuminated by something coming from within me, about twice the width of my body, arms stretched out. But it didn't take long to start recognizing in the distance, as I'm moving at a hugely fast speed, this huge ball of light. And it looked white at first, only white. But I was moving to it, and it's getting closer and closer and bigger and bigger. The light was not painful to look at. It should have been, because it was brighter than the sun. But something had changed in my eyes, or something had changed in the light. But I could look at this, and all it did was invite me in, and it was warm and inviting. And everything started changing, but I could see in front of this light, where it went upward and outward in every direction, millions upon millions of people and angelic beings worshiping and praising God. But this wasn't like they had to. It wasn't like they were required to fulfill some duty. This was an expression of who they were and what they were created to be.
So I looked up and I saw like 3 grids of white light that were like coming down over my head, and I sort of laid back and put my head back and I looked into this light, and the light was just so intense and bright that normally it's the kind of light you wouldn't be able to look into with the human eye. But in this sphere, I was able to do that. I was able to look. In fact, I couldn't take my gaze away because the intensity of this light was so pure, and I felt like it was healing me as well. I felt like a sense of that something good was coming from this light. So I allowed myself to bathe in this beautiful light.
And then all of a sudden I said, well, I'm going to keep fighting it. I'll keep fighting it, keep fighting it, keep fighting it. And then it got to the point where I could not fight it anymore. I got to a point where I looked at, in my mind at the wife and the kids, and I said, sayonara, and I let go. And when I let go, I let go of life. I let go of everything. And when I let go of light, the most beautiful, 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 beautiful light, a golden, 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 very bright golden light came somewhere around my eyes, between my eyes, somewhere. And all of a sudden, my physical eyes went cross-eyed and went all the way up. It's an automatic thing, as if it's pre-programmed in our DNA. I went cross-eyed up, all the way back. It was an automatic thing. The light just poured completely in, and I went shoo, straight into that light. The light was, it seemed like it was an infinite magnet. It was an insatiably, irresistible, infinite magnet. It naturally attracted me out of the body. There's a symbol that came, there was a geometric symbol that is associated with that light. It's a very sacred symbol that there was a motion connected with the symbol. And the symbol is what allowed me to come out of the body and rapidly propel somehow toward the light. Within the light, I'm not sure it was a tunnel or whatever it was, but I went boom. At such a high rate of speed, the faster I shot toward this light, the more my heart opened. And as my heart opened, I experienced infinite, infinite, infinite love. Infinite love. It's no words to describe the love. With the love, there was an infinite ecstasy associated with the love. It was a complete love. It was not physical, it was electrical. But it was completely unified. The love and the ecstasy was unified. People, when they fall in love and when they make love, there's a ceiling from the floor to the ceiling. You love your significant other, and you make love and all that. There's a ceiling. It's finite. In this sphere, in this realm, there was no limits. There was no limits. So therefore, the heart completely opened up, and then the spiritual aspect, the soul aspect, the higher self aspect of us went straight to the light. What was left behind was nothingness, completely nothingness. All I could see was light. I didn't see any things, nothing at all. Also, nothing but darkness and light. Within the light, there was intelligence. And within the intelligence, there were sentient beings within the light. And again, I didn't see anything at all except for the light. The sentient beings I know because they are associated with my studies. I won't give any names or anything like that, but I know. If I was a Christian, I would call the light Jesus. If I was a Buddhist, I would call the light Buddha. If I was a Hindu, it would be Krishna. Whatever it was, the light becomes what we believe, what we associate with. And that's immaterial. It doesn't make any difference what we call the light, because it's love. And within the light, there was a very, very sacred, very extremely loving feminine being within this light. And she talked to me. Again, I had no body. I was only communicating with the light. And the light was able to inform me that basically it was not my time to go. And that I had to return. And the light was home. It was as if we had not been home for millions and millions of years. The light was complete, it was full of nourishment, full of love, full of every bit of information. I knew every aspect of the universe. I knew why planets were formed, why stars were formed, why people were formed, why the elements were, every element was formed. I knew everything while in the light.
The initial experience was a sense of coming to out of darkness and realizing I have left my body, I've died. Now mind you, I didn't know I'd overdosed, you see. My body's sort of this opaque thing, I'm sort of floating through space, I'm coming into this presence of this white light, It was like life. That's the only way I could interpret it. I wasn't afraid. I felt absolutely safe. My body was, when I looked at it, it was almost kind of see-through, but I felt okay. And I thought, I've died, but I feel wonderful. This feels great. This is an incredible experience. And then I found myself focusing on this light that I was coming into the center of, that I was merging with, if you will. I couldn't see anybody, but there was a personality in the presence of this light. It was white light, indescribable in its purity. And the other feelings that went with it were, I'm loved. I'm in the presence of love. There's no sense of time at all. And in the presence of knowledge. And I felt so good, so loved.
You know, when they started singing that, I heard a voice, it was the Lord's voice, and he said, no, he's just here for a visit. So at that point, I was standing in heaven, and it was bright, hot light. It was just so intense. And as far as I can see, all around me, it was just light. It was beautiful. It was like, it was just total, I tell people, like, it was total bliss. It was total, like, unbelievable that I was standing there in glory. And I'm like, I just stood there for a second. I was collecting my thoughts. I didn't see anybody. I didn't hear anything. I was in white myself. I call it bathed in light, bathed in heaven's light. And that's what I felt. And then in my mind, because you still have your faculties, in my mind, I thought, I was starting to think of my whole life, kind of flashed before me, and I was and there was nothing there that made me feel guilty. It was like everything was washed away. All the mistakes, all the failures, all my sins.
The next thing I'm feeling is I'm being pulled back and then pushed forward into darkness. As a kid, the worst thing that I dealt with was fear of the dark, because I never knew what was coming in the dark. There was abuse and trauma in the house, and so being fully in the dark was just too vulnerable, too overwhelming, the scariest thing in the world for me. And also being blind, because you can't see what's coming at you. And I thought, if I can just find one little tiny glimmer of light, one little speck of something to hold on to, I'll be okay. And as I see this one little spot of light, I think, I'm gonna just hang in with it, and it's gonna be okay, and I'm gonna be okay. And I just worked that inside of myself. And as I'm staring at it, it's starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's coming closer and closer. And all of a sudden, it's everything around me. And I'm looking at the light, and I'm thinking, what is this? Because it was like clouds. The white is a color I've never seen before. It almost has like all the colors of the rainbow in it, but it's white. It has this glistening effect to it. It wasn't just light, it was substance and feeling, and it's all around me. It's all I can see, all I can feel, all I can experience, and I don't have words for it. How do you describe unconditional love? I don't know how to describe it. All I know is I have never felt so cared about, adored, cherished, safe. Anything you'd ever wished for to have in the world in that moment is what I felt. Satisfied beyond my wildest dream.
My body sort of rotated upright, so I'm perpendicular to my body, and I'm being drawn, then I'm being pulled, like gravity pulls you down, and I'm feeling this attraction of peace and joy and love. And there's this white light that shines away all of my fears and shines away the concepts that I am a body. There's more to me. And I become, in essence, a thought. And I call it now a thought of love. That's our true essence, is we are a thought of love in the mind of God. This body is stripped away, our concepts are stripped away, time and space is stripped away, and we're left with our divine essence of who we truly are. So I went through this long, dark tunnel, and the farther I went into it, the light kept getting brighter and brighter, shining on me, shining away my thoughts, my illusions, and reminding me that I am in fact a divine being. And now I can say I'm a divine being having a human experience, analogous to you're the driver of a car and the car thinks it's real, but it's not. You're the driver. The car breaks down and dies. You step out.
But I was in a dark tunnel. It was a very, very dark tunnel. And I would say there was a shimmering light at the end of the tunnel, which was very peaceful, very inviting. In my sense, it was like 200 yards away. It was very far away. And then suddenly I felt a being standing next to me. It was not somebody, you could not see it. I actually felt that I turned around, myself and see who was standing next to me in the tunnel. But I could not see the person or see God or see the angel or whatever it might have been. That energy that was there was so peaceful. And meanwhile, I was still switching around between seeing myself on the bed, doctors working on me, and the tunnel, which was very peaceful. So I thought, okay, the tunnel is more peaceful. I'm going to die either way. So I might as well focus on the tunnel. And then I had some questions. The questions that I had for that energy, I told them, I don't want to die yet. My family has gone through many things in the past. I'm sure that they will be heartbroken by losing their son, and I felt extremely guilty towards my wife because it kind of felt that, I left her with all the things I didn't do in my life or didn't finish in my life. It was very difficult. And I told them, I don't think I'm ready for this. The energy told me very specifically, there's nothing to worry about, nothing at all. This is just like a natural process, after you die. And at that same time, it was just like a confirmation in a sense that I should not be worried about death, about things that I leave behind, because it's not important whatsoever. It was only love. Love is the most important thing I felt that's being said to me in that sense. And at the moment that he said that, and the moment that I told him that, I still have to finish things in my life, I felt that I was pushed back in my body. It was literally like, I was looking at the light that was very far away, and it felt like a big hand, coming from that light through the tunnel on my chest, like a huge, huge hand. It was like as large as my upper body. And I felt I was being literally pushed back into my body. It came from the shimmering light in the tunnel, and then it pushed me right back in my body. And I actually felt like that. I felt my soul or whatever it is was pushed back in the body.
Immediately after the moment of my death, I saw that I was in a void, not blackness like nighttime or space, but just an absence of everything. And there was this brightness, which was just absolutely blinding light. I couldn't see or define anything. And I'm sure that in my present human body, carnal state, it probably would have killed me had I not already been dead, to be exposed to the super pure and utter righteousness of God. So I didn't see form or shape or what did he look like. People ask or want me to draw a picture, but there was this blinding light, and it was like in beams and sparkling beams, like diamonds. You could see these light beams and the sparkles coming down it towards myself.
The moment you lift out of that body, you're safe, no matter what anybody tells you, no matter what. When you start down that tunnel, when people ask me all the time, Dannion, what's it like to go down this tunnel? Imagine this. You're 7 years old. It's Christmas. You're going to grandmother's. Grandmother's rich. You're her favorite grandchild. Her name is Disney, and she lives in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
And as you come up to the stoplight, it's stopped and it's red. When that light turns green, you turn left, turn right, and pull back up into the yard, and Grandma and Mickey's waiting for you. When that light turns green, that's what it feels like to go down that tunnel. You're almost there. You're going home. It's wondrous, powerful, peaceful. I heard these series of chimes. I come into this place of the most bright, brilliant, beautiful light conceivable. What I know now is as we, as the powerful spiritual beings that we are, as we return to the other side, the only way we can acclimate ourselves to the true power of spirit is through this white, brilliant light. It is as though God is letting us know we're home safe. I'm looking around. This light is so brilliant, it becomes a part of me and I become a part of it. But I know I'm safe.
It was a realization. There wasn't any pro or con type of emotion. No, it wasn't negative at all. And it wasn't fearful at all. It was because I was in this comfortable space. There was nothing there. And I've heard some accounts where people have gone into that and found that incredibly frightening. Now, I think if you transitioned into death in a very peaceful manner and you found this total blackness, I could see where that might be frightening for someone. But it wasn't very long before I saw the light appeared, and it allowed me to move toward the light. And so I went from the darkness into the light. And that was a natural process as well. It felt I've never been able to determine whether I moved toward the light or the light moved toward me. But it did feel like movement. It felt like we were traveling. And the closer I got, the more I started feeling the sense of welcome and love. And that just sped the whole process up, because to feel that kind of love, reaching out to you, touching, it's because when in this physical life do we feel love reach out and touch us? Think of the times in life where you can say that you physically felt love reach out and touch you. It's hard to describe those moments. Those are short, brief periods in life. We love our family, but that kind of love has rules, and this love, this love is so much larger, because when it touches you, you become a part of it, and there's no conditions, no rules, no expectations, it's just a part of this greater love that comprises everything.
And at the time of the transition, when I was in the darkness and I was getting ready to go into the light, I started to see light. And it was just like light all in front of me, beautiful white light. And I was just so drawn to it. It was like a moth to a fire, or to a light. I was so drawn to it. The pain was gone. And I just wanted to go into that light. And I felt peace and love. It's just like when I received this Holy Spirit, I felt those same feelings. And I just quickly I glanced down, because I felt like my body was just rotating. It was just going up really slow after I started getting in light. And I just happened to look down, and I just faintly saw myself. I had just like leaving my body, and in between where I was in my body, it was like this white looking, like fuzzy looking white and gray stuff between my body and what I think is my spirit was just rising. See, I was already dying. I was going to heaven. And I knew it too. It's like they say, you know it when you feel it. You know that's what it is. They have all these things where they talk about, they try to justify it with science, and it's something in your brain that does all this. But I dispute that, because you know what? It's like they say, you are going to know heaven, and you're going to know your maker when you meet him. You're going to know your Father. And that's how I dispute it. They can say whatever they want to, but even at a 12-year-old, guys, I knew it. I knew it. And, and how would a 12-year-old know that? You know what I'm saying? Because the spirit inside of you is oneness with God. He is our creator. We have that connection with us. And he's made of light. We're made of light. It connects us. It is binded to him. And I knew it even at 12 years old.
It's like space without stars, like a vacuum, like a void. And way far in the distance, and I mean way far in the distance, I remember seeing this little tiny light. Very small. And all I can remember is flying towards this light. And everything around me is, like I said, a solid black. But it feels like the senses are there, like you're traveling, like you're flying, like head first. This is me. This is what I got. And through this travel period, I'm in just like a state of like awe, shock, and not sure what is happening. And I'm just like getting closer and closer, and as I'm getting closer, there's all of a sudden like this lights coming at me, or an energy. And a lot of this, I'm going to say, is very difficult, because it's very hard to put into words in relation to what I know a lot of things as they are here on Earth. So I'm flying and I'm getting this information. It is what I've gathered. It's bits of information, kind of like you see with digital bits of information, computer information, ones and zeros. But it's not like that. It's not clear. It's just like blobs of this energy or information, what have you. Like I say, difficult to explain. All I know is I'm flying. This stuff is coming at me. It seems like it's absorbing into me. It's hitting me. I'm running into it, and it's going into me, like I'm going through it. I keep traveling closer and closer and going through more and more of this, and as I'm getting closer to this light, I notice that it's a flickering light. It's like a light, a candle. It's not straight up and down, but it's wide, and it is at a color. It is of a golden color that I cannot explain. I've never seen any color like this. Looking at this, and I'm getting closer, I'm starting to come to some sense that maybe this is heaven.
No human being has greater insight into your circumstance than you do. If you've somehow managed to convince yourself that this is not the case, You need to seriously think it through, because our perspectives are unique. We can generalize from one person to another, but no one is in a position to claim leadership. It's unnecessary. The dynamic of the situation is larger than any single human being, and anyone who says, I understand, I know, follow me, is certainly not to be invited home to dinner or tithed to, or because no one knows. It is a mystery, and a mystery is not an unsolved problem. This is what science has led us to assume. All mysteries, you hire people, they gather data, the mystery goes away. Only the trivial edges of the mystery can be illuminated in that fashion. The core of being is pure contradiction. Life is death. Death is life. The past is the future. The present is eternity. And comprehending this is not to become some kind of ivory tower intellectual. Comprehending this is to move past intellectual concepts to actually embrace love. Love is what waits beyond abandoning the search for closure. Love is not closure. Love is a challenge, emotion, being in the purest sense, not becoming. This is the realm of becoming, and it is always striving, and it is always incomplete. Love is the realm of true being, and it lies beyond the prison of culture, beyond the prison of ideology, beyond the prison of self-defined limitations.